Man, that's a lot this morning, and I'm tilted forward. Just do not like these chairs. Do not recommend these chairs.
Here, I'll grab us one of these.
I mean, it doesn't help that we're on like a little property that goes like this, sanctioned in holes and stuff. That's better. Then you don't feel like you're just gonna fall flat on your face. Here comes the train. Do 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 do. Here comes the train.
Oh, that's much better.
Screaming the whole way, the train.
This is much better.
I like it. Makes a total difference.
I like it a lot.
I do still love my cup that has a little handle. Multi reasons for that.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. We are, let's see, it's Saturday morning.
Good morning.
We're here for our garden chat. We really appreciate you guys that are watching and that are loving these videos. We actually really enjoy making them. And I have to give a shout out to Stivers Homestead because he's who encouraged by his barn chats
and
inspired, yeah,
us
these to do this, because I truly believe that there is a specific mindset for people that do this journey. Do you?
I think so.
Because you've really kind of done both now.
I've really my mindset has changed completely. City girl, total
Grown up that way.
Yeah, totally cut off where my food source was from. The grocery store was my food source. I did not picture animals as being food. You just go to the store and you get it. It was never alive.
And it really blows my mind. Now, we did not live on a farm that raised its own stuff or had a garden or any of those things, but we did. We went from the trailer park to 7 acres in Texas, and we had horses, but we had friends that did. So I feel like that kind of pulled me into that. But I have to say that going to my grandmother's house, going down in the basement and seeing her jars of food, I was like, oh. And then seeing pictures of their city lot. They lived out on the farm, but then they also lived in town. My grandpa built houses. And seeing their, city lot, residential area, neighborhood, yard, the front yard and the backyard being vegetable gardens. Like, that was super inspiring.
If I were to go back now as a city person, I would totally do that. Front yard, yes. Backyard, specifically the backyard, but I would try and incorporate the front yard as well.
Yeah. So,
heck, why not?
This week's discussion that we kind of had, we really want to do a disclaimer here. We are not diving deep in, we're just touching on the subject. There really is this expectation for those of you that are watching to do your own research, to look at your own things and do what you feel is right for your family.
And correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, like, I don't mind that.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
KJ went and tested her salt with her microscope, and hers did not have glass in it. Pertaining
that was Morton's, right?
Morton's salt, table salt. So yeah, now I'm just trying to look up meat products in USA.
Yeah, so basically the FDA has approved synthetic meat to be sold in stores this week.
Yeah, now that
shocking
honestly makes me just want to throw up. I'm sure there's people who feel like that's still real meat, that is okay, that they are, I don't know, what are they doing? Like, do they just create the synthetic steak, or does it create the whole thing? I have not delved into it because it seriously grosses me out. Like, it's kind of one of those things that it's a hard no for me, and I don't want to even delve any farther in it because it just disgusts me more and more every day, and it honestly is affecting my psyche. I definitely, since we've been doing this to bring it to you. It's not that I didn't know, but I could be like, okay, that's a hard no for me. I don't need to know any more information. But we've been kind of delving a little bit more into it and having more conversations on it because we were doing
That's
these
how
talks.
I used to be. Like,
Yeah.
bury my head in the sand. I don't want to know any more about it because it will just whirl me out.
I don't want to bury my head in the sand.
That's
I
what
do
I
want to
used to.
know, but I can go from, oh yeah, hard no, I don't need to know anymore.
Yeah.
And because there's just this level of the expectation of these, the FDA, the government, whatever, to protect us. Like, that's their job, to protect us, and they're no longer doing that. They are actively. It appears as if they are no longer doing that. It seems as if they are actively, they're actively doing something. You can go with that wherever you want. I look at it. What I see is they are having farmers kill their livestock, and now all of a sudden this is
Coming out.
So.
Coincidental? I think not.
Yeah, I mean, so it does go there. So that's, so one of the big things that we are wanting to do, because we're not jumping on that, let's just scare you and stress you out. And mental health is a really big issue for us. I suffer with PTSD. I mean, you have symptoms. You have not been actively diagnosed.
I have not been diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I have it as well.
I do too. Because you react very similar that I do, and I have been diagnosed through the military with PTSD. So, depressive disorder, all of those things like that all comes in, and then finding that the chemicals that are being put on our foods are setting us up maybe for that, or causing the imbalances in our system, so our body's not working the way that it's supposed to, and then you can fall into those things.
Well, and I didn't even realize, I mean, I know that common sense people would look it up, but I didn't know what GMO meant. I did not know that it was genetically modified. Like, what happened to natural, regular food that is not affected genetically?
Well, and something that I've always said, and people have always looked at me like I'm a wackadoo, is, look, I will step up. I'm a wackadoo. I totally acknowledge it, claim it, wear it as a proud badge. Is that our grandparents and great grandparents did not have the diseases that we have today.
No, they
just did not have them. Autism, it was very rare. Cancer was very rare. And I'm just going to say those two things. The hormonal imbalances, okay, that, yes, women went through menopause, but I don't think they had, like,
I don't think there was such occurrences of hypothyroidism. And, there's, of course, genetic things that happen, in people, but there's rare. A lot of things that are being affected because of your food.
Right.
Because of what you put in your body.
And the proof to me, the only proof that I need is the fact that our grandparents didn't have it and we do today. Now, is that caused because there's more population? I've seen that. Like, when there's a bigger population, of course you're going to see a higher rate of
toxins.
But that's where I go. The environmental toxins, the stuff that's being sprayed on our food. I don't know when this chemically spraying of food for the weeds and stuff and all that kind of stuff started happening. But I wonder if, and I don't even want to delve into it. To me, there's enough evidence.
I do want to mention something. Like, I did not know until probably I think it was this year, when a friend came over and we were talking about the planes and the little trails behind them. I never knew that was a chemtrail. I thought that was a regular thing that happens behind an airplane. So those of you that don't know that, look it up.
Well, because they tell you that. That's nothing. So I knew back in 98,
I never knew.
98 that those were actual chemtrails, because my aunt was dating a gentleman who flew those planes, and he was saying that that's what those are.
That they spray things. And
at that point, you never saw it in the country. You only saw it over the city. And he was like, hey, look at, when you're in town, because I lived way out of town. He's like, when you're in town, look at planes that are flying over and you'll see these trails. Planes don't do that. So I was aware of that, and back then you were a wackadoo if you believed that that was chemtrails. Like there was such a campaign to make you look crazy if you thought that that was you were a conspiracy theorist.
I'm part of the club now. I need my wackadoo badge.
Your wackadoo badge. And we need shirts that says I'm a proud badge wearing wackadoo.
Wackadoo.
You know, but now this is the thing. All of those conspiracy theories are now being completely acknowledged that yes, that is what is happening by the government, and but it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Yeah, that's happening. It's fine. So.
Totally fine.
This meat, this what is it?
Synthetic
meat. Synthetic. What is the actual definition of synthetic?
I was gonna say let me give you exact.
Because here's the thing: they're probably not lying to you when they're calling it what it is, but they're telling you that it's fine. Well, I look at the track record of things that they've told me is fine. And those things have proven not to be fine. And
okay, synthetic, of a substance made by chemical synthesis, especially to imitate a natural product.
Okay, so fake. It's a very fancy way to say fake.
What does it mean if something is synthetic? It means, well. Here's a question. Does synthetic mean real or fake? Not real or genuine. Artificial. Feigned. A synthetic chuckle at a poor joke. It means it's not real.
Right.
So
now you have to make the decision. Is this a hard no for you, or are you going to be okay with it? But here's what I see. Just me personal, my opinion. The fact that the FDA has approved it, the government has said this is fine to do. Basically, any fast food that you purchase is going to be using synthetic meat. We already know that they have plastic in their meat, that it's so heavily processed that it won't. People have done their little things where they've wrapped a burger up from McDonald's and it's lasted 20 years. Like it never broke down. And my rule is if the flies won't eat it, I'm not going to eat it either. So that doesn't mean I'm going to eat poop because I know they're on poop. But
says things you should know. Cultivated meat is grown in
and no spill. Yay!
Grown in still tanks using cells that come from a living animal, a fertilized egg, or a special bank of stored cells. In upside's case, it comes out in large sheets that are then formed and shaped to look like chicken cutlets or sausages, etc., etc.
It's just so creepy. It's just literally so creepy to me. Like, that is so creepy.
It's typically made with proteins such as beans or peas, fats, coconut or canola oils, carbs, potato starch, and minerals with flavorings such as beet juice.
Okay, so if you're like us, if you're like us and you're like, that is a hard no for me. Hard no. Willingly hard no, which means that we have to alter our lifestyle to not eating out because you don't know. You don't know. And if you actually do not know, you should assume that it is. If you don't know where your source of meat is coming from, you should assume that it is this genetically modified, because there's going to be a hard push for that. That is the only thing that makes sense as to why they've been having farmers kill hundreds of thousands of livestock. Like, you guys, if you don't know that this hasn't been happening, this has been happening the last few years.
Well, not only that, but all of these places that are blowing up with animals.
Yes, the egg production.
Trains and big buildings of meat.
Many processing plants.
It's amazing how coincidental that is.
Yes. So, if it's a hard no for you, what can you do from there?
Right.
Let's just go there, because that's what we try to do. We try to give you some information that we have that maybe you don't have. And we kind of base this on what you were told living in the city and the information that you had being just a basic city person.
Yep. Things I learned through school.
Right.
Things I learned, just from neighbors and
Right.
friends,
and we can just assume that there's a general population out there that doesn't have this information, that doesn't know. So
Right.
big component, big thing that we are pushing is look for local farmers. You can purchase, so you're in town, you're in an apartment, right? You're in town. You have maybe a medium-sized backyard or a larger backyard, but you have where they won't allow you to have a goat. They won't allow you. So goat meat is a red meat. It's a low calorie meat. It's a low fat meat.
and it doesn't taste goaty if there's not an intact male around.
Well, no, that's milk. That's the milk. The
meat
intact
always
milk.
tastes goaty?
No. Yeah, depending upon the age of your goat and the breed of your goat.
Okay.
So that affects that. So if you can't have cows, but you can have smaller animals, you look into your lambs, which is a red meat. You look into your goat, which is a red meat. So your chicken type meat would be rabbit. Rabbit can switch out any chicken recipe. Quail are very quiet. They're within 6 weeks they're adults, so it takes 6 weeks for them to grow to adulthood.
And rabbits, how long does it take for them to grow?
10 to 12 weeks.
And they're also quiet.
I mean, they make a little bit of noise here and there, but they're generally a very quiet animal, and they give you really good compost for growing your vegetables. So if I lived in town, I had a basic backyard, I would have, for me and just my family, I'm not talking to sell anything, I'm talking to fill your own personal freezer. I would have probably 6 females and 1 male. So 6 does, 1 buck. Each one of those does usually have 6 to 8 babies. So now you're looking at 70 rabbits a year. Each rabbit basically weighs about 4.5 pounds at harvest weight. And that in general for one person is probably 4 meals, depending upon what you did, like enchiladas, just eating, like you would a chicken leg and thigh. So you do the rabbit leg and thigh, that would be 1 meal. So you could probably get for one person 4 meals out of that. So we had rabbit tacos the other day. Put the whole rabbit on the grill, seasoned it up, grilled the whole thing. It was amazing.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was so good.
So good. And now we have what's left over that will get off the bone completely, probably make some enchiladas, I think would be really good. Mm-hmm. And then you have all the bones that you could drop into and get your my brain left the building. Your rabbit stock. So,
and we actually got 2 meals off of it already, and then there's enough for a third meal for the two of us.
For the 2 of us, yeah.
So
that's what you can. Hold on, there's a plane. The plane. So, I've mentioned probably in every single one of these videos, raise rabbits. Because they're quiet, they're fun to watch, and they really do. There's a reason why they say breed like rabbits. Like once they give birth, they can get pregnant again, and they're pregnant for 30 days. Their babies take off and are doing their own thing at about 3 weeks of age, 4 weeks of age. So by the time, so let's just say you did back-to-back breedings. By the time your mama is 28 days, 30 days, so you're looking at 28 days, they're going to give birth. By the time, and they're immediately bred, those older babies are, mama's no longer feeding them, and they're pregnant and giving birth again. So if you only want to breed during the, so 6 times 6 would be 36 rabbits. 36 times 4, we may need to do a calculator at this point. So 36 by 4. Or we could just say 40. 40 by 4 times 4 or 5. 40 times 5 is 200 pounds. 200 pounds of meat from one breeding of all of those. So that goes into your freezer, and then you've turned around. So you could very easily, in 3 months have 600 pounds of rabbit. Now, everybody always says,
Can't live off rabbit alone.
can't live off rabbit, you'll die. And we're not telling you to do that. We're telling you what you could grow in your backyard. You're going to need to add fats because rabbit is a very low fat meat. So, and same with goat, you're going to need to add your fats. So, there's a lot of farmers that will sell ready to butcher, ready to go to the butcher, pigs and beef.
And lard.
And
from
lard.
the pigs.
So you can get, like I bought a half a pig. It was $200 at the time. And, and then the processing. So I spent about $300 for a half a pig.
And it really is cost saving though if you add it all up and all the times you go to the grocery store and all the things you buy and the prices they are right now.
Right.
If you add that all up, it really is a lot cheaper to buy it that way and then just throw them in the freezer.
Now, if you have the ability like we do here, we're going to be raising 2 pigs for processing throughout the winter. And pigs do really well in the cold. And that's how we're going to do ours because our water sources, we have to bring our water in right now. So we'll be adding pork to our rabbit. And, that's kind of where we're looking at. We're going to easily have probably 600 pounds of rabbit meat by the end of this season. Probably in August, we will be pulling the male out. Any other males will be processed. That way the females are done. They won't get rebred. And then over winter, I will overwinter 6 does, 1 buck for next season. They won't be bred all winter long. That's just personally how I want to do it. I know that there are people that have 2 rabbits and they just continuously breed, not every time, but they just swap it back and forth because they're basically they have a small freezer. They don't want to hold a bunch in, and maybe we'll try that next year. I don't know. We'll see how we end up doing it.
Again, quail is another thing to have if you're living in town.
Quail are very quiet.
Small eggs.
That have more minerals and that are better for you than chicken eggs.
But they're very quiet and easy to take care of.
Yes, they're very quiet. They're very easy to take care of. They're very easy to process.
If noise isn't a factor, like minimal noise, ducks are also really good. They have huge eggs.
Huge eggs.
Great eggs for baking. I personally don't like them.
Also a medium. I don't like
as just eating them as a fried egg.
But if that's all I had, if that's all I could do, then I would do it. Like I wouldn't.
They're just super rich and a little grainy if you scramble them.
Yeah, that was odd. But I definitely think again, once you've gotten used to that, it wouldn't be a big deal.
Right.
But even as far as baking and that kind of stuff, so you could easily raise. Let's just say 90% of it. Here's the thing, and this is what always cracks me up about you. You would starve to death off of. I mean, I'm overweight, and in general, in the United States, we're overweight. Like, I think I would be fine going a year with just eating rabbit and quail. And I'm pretty sure I haven't checked in a long time. And the veggies.
Garden.
Yeah, and then you throw in a pig, so now you've added pork, you've added lard, you've added avocados. We obviously aren't growing avocados here.
No, we will be.
We will hopefully will be. But that would be something I would really purchase of avocados. You've got your nuts, you've got your seeds that you can add. So you're adding your fat, you're adding those things. You're never gonna, well, I mean, maybe you would if it was the apocalypse and zombies were taking over and you couldn't grow vegetables. Then you may have to just survive on meat only. Or, there are a bunch of people that are doing the carnivore diet type thing. But for us, and I think in general, people in general are not doing that.
I mean, heck, people live off of deer and stuff they hunt, and there's not a lot of fat on those animals.
But again, I'm also like, okay, is this something that people have been taught that, so that fuzzy bunnies aren't being processed, aren't a meat source, or they don't think that that's a meat source or whatever. But
you did a short somewhat recently and about meat meat rabbits, and
Yeah.
people were appalled. Like,
They were like,
"You're gonna eat those?"
are you saying you're going to eat those? You're killing these rabbits?
I
Like,
have to say though, that used to be me. I
What-
totally used to
and
be
I'll
that
tell
girl.
you, Kim was like, don't show me any pictures of anything you're going to process.
And don't
That was
talk
our
to me
rule,
about it.
and don't talk to me about it. She did not want to know.
And I was okay with it if she called it freezer camp. The
Yes.
animals are going to freezer camp. But if she said, I'm butchering them, or I'm killing them, or
Yes.
I'm whatever.
And people will say, don't say that. Just use the word that it is. It's like, no, you need to gently bring people into this lifestyle. You don't need to beat them over the head with what you're doing. You know, and
it's hard for some people.
Or shame them or any of those things. It's like, but the one thing I say is get people the information. Hey, you may want to. And I have to say that's the reason why we do these chats the way that we do. It's a gentler process in. You know, I don't believe in slamming anything over anybody's head. I'm going to give you the information. You get to make your choice and your decisions based on that. I know what's a hard no for me.
Yeah.
And this synthetic meat is a hard no. And so I feel personally like if there's so many things that they don't have to tell us that is in the food that is being sold to us, and that is deemed okay. So are they gonna have to say McDonald's is not, and you guys, I'm just using McDonald's as an example, or this fast food is now using synthetic meat? I have to assume, since it is legal to use synthetic meat, that if I don't actively know where that meat came from and that it is not synthetic, that it is synthetic.
Yeah.
That has to be my mindset. Because if it is legally allowed and it is cheaper, here's the thing, is that going to be cheaper?
I bet it is.
But, you know, so there's been a whole bunch of videos out to, you know, the people that I kind of watch or whatever that is saying, it's not going to be that meat is so expensive or food is so expensive. It's going to be that there is none. The rate that is the livestock is being slaughtered off and put into the ground, like they're not even sending it to, you know, these cattle ranchers the government is forcing them to kill their livestock.
Again, research this.
Yeah.
Look up Ireland animal.
Yeah, so that's happening in Ireland, and they're having to import from Brazil. There's a whole bunch of here in the United States. This is happening. They're blowing up these processing plants. These processing plants are catching on fire and going down, and they're
Trains.
and we're not seeing that they're rebuilding. So this is where it's like, okay, well, yeah, that plant had 6 plants crazily just caught on fire at the same time, and but they're not rebuilding. That's what we're not seeing, is they're not rebuilding. It's accidents happen, buildings catch on fire.
6 of them. That's
at the same time. It's crazy.
Happens.
But they're not rebuilding. So why are they not rebuilding? Because we're making synthetic meat. And so because that's a hard no for me, I'm going to figure out how I can grow my own, raise my own, purchase locally. So from my goats, I get meat and I get milk, so I get dairy products. Some things, what is that? Sasquatch back there, or a deer. So goat milk, you can make just about all your cheeses, all your kind of stuff. They don't have you do need a cream separator for that. It does not separate as well as cow's milk does. But in general, you could have 2 acres and have a very small herd of goats producing your own meat and milk. A goat, when it's process ready, you're going to get about 40 to 60 pounds of actual meat, because the bone to meat ratio is more than what it is in beef cattle.
And with that milk, you can make cheese and yogurt.
Yes,
and
you
cottage
can
cheese.
all cream cheeses,
sour cream,
your ranch dressings, your buttermilk, butter. You can make all of that.
That was one of the things recently I talked about, that I want to get away from the buying the taco seasonings from the store and the ranch from the store, because you can make those yourself and they're so much better for you.
So much better. I never liked blue cheese dressing, ever. It was just terrible to me. And then I was watching a lady or reading her blog. I was really into blogs when blogs first came around, so it was probably around that time. And this lady was talking about she hated blue cheese dressing, but she made this gorgonzola dressing, which is a milder blue cheese flavor. It's very mild. And she made it all from scratch, and it was phenomenal. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to give that a try, because I always want to give something a try because of the difference between homemade and real fresh ingredients to store-bought. The difference is insane. I loved it. Same with Caesar salad dressing, which is how I knew that there were anchovies in it, because I made it from scratch. Amazing, phenomenal. So just because there's something that you don't like that's store-bought, try it homemade from scratch.
I will be interested in trying that, because I'm not a big Caesar fan, but I'd be interested in trying that. You know, also you got to give yourself, and I'm talking about from a city girl perspective. Wow, that hurt. You gotta give yourself a chance to kind of get used to things too, because as far as, you know, let's give like ketchup an example. Homemade ketchup tastes way different than store-bought ketchup, and so it takes you some time to kind of get used to things like that. Like the homemade mayonnaise is going to be a bit different than your mayonnaise that you're used to.
Your texture will be the same on the mayo and the ketchup and that kind of stuff. So that's very much
flavor.
It's just the flavor.
Yeah.
That is different. And then you can experiment into what are considered gourmet stuff, really inexpensive. Like there's a raspberry ketchup that I made once that was insane. It was so good. It was so good. And it's just this hint of, and you get to change these things. And so ketchup to me, store-bought ketchup to me is extremely, I feel like my hat's doing things. It is. What is happening here? My thing got bad. It's very harsh. It's very harsh. It's very, very vinegary, and just the scent of it is, ugh. Ever since I got pregnant, 30 years, it's never gone away. It's super overpowering to my senses. Where the homemade that I've made was not, and it was really good. And I have never been a ketchup eater. And
I love ketchup.
Homemade ketchup to me is, I love it. Absolutely love it. So, you know, I think this is things that if you want to eat real food and you don't want to eat synthetic things, or if you're dealing with a lot of body inflammation, that's one thing we're dealing with right now. And when we started eating keto, which is no processed food, I think the only thing that we had that was processed was the tortillas, the keto low carb tortillas.
Yeah, and that was rare too.
Yeah, that wasn't a lot. So a lot of times that we're trying to grab and go. And so making, I do I call them egg quesadillas. That's not what they are though. But basically it's egg and cheese inside, and it's kind of made like almost like a calzone, because you can grab that and go. And so that's kind of, and then we also do the little actual, what we call poor man calzones, with those too. So, that's probably the one thing. But all of our inflammation went away. Didn't have to take any Tylenol, any Aleve, any Advil, any ibuprofen, anything for joint pain, inflammation, pain. And in learning that fat is actually inflammation, you really start dropping weight, because you lose all those things that are causing the inflammation. So, if you're dealing with that kind of thing, then this may be something that you want to look at. And if you are, let's just say you can't do it your own dairy goat, they also have where you can go to these smaller dairies and purchase your raw milk directly from these dairies. And you would look at it and say, wow, that's a lot of money for a gallon of milk. But you're getting nothing creepy in it. Like, it's real milk from the cow who's been grazing in a pasture, and whose human loves them. These dairy farmers, small dairy farmers, your large dairy farmers, they love their animals too. And I think people don't really understand that. Like, they're like, No, you don't. You get in there and get up personal, and you watch that farmer, that rancher with their animal, and they love them. There is a love there. It is a love. It is real. And from that, say you go pick up 4 gallons of milk, you can then come home and very easily process you could do it immediately if you had a cream separator. If you don't have a cream separator, then with cow's milk, you just got to wait a few days and the cream will rise to the top and you can skim that off and you can make your cream cheese and your heavy cream and your half and half. And
don't be scared by what they say about like non-pasteurized milk either. Like again, things that we're told that isn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
So
raw milk is not terrible.
Raw milk.
I've been drinking raw goat's milk for years. I've not died yet. And my grandson, even though he thinks I'm 100,
and again,
I feel like I've aged fairly well at 50, and it's really just been here recently, and I don't know if there's something that's really changed. I know that I'm eating more processed food these last few years because we're building from raw land up here, and I am feeling it. Like, I hurt all over. I've never, ever, ever dealt with this.
Yeah. You definitely can see more. For myself, I can see more inflammation in my face and my belly area. But again, raw milk, or not raw milk, but goat milk can be a replacement for things for like baby formula too.
Yes.
It's
the closest. Goat's milk is the closest to mother's human milk. I think it's only off by like one little thing. So yeah, babies can drink that, all of that kind of stuff. You can use goat's milk to raise any baby, a baby horse, a baby cow, baby probably. Well, I don't know about baby rabbits. Rabbits only feed their babies twice a day, AM, PM. And then they bury them underground and they leave them there, and then they come back and they dig them up and they go in and they feed them and then they bury them back up.
I'm surprised they don't suffocate.
I know, right? It's weird, but so that's what they do. So so goat's milk, you can do that. But I've made Colby Jack cheese from goat's milk. I've made mozzarella from goat's milk. I've made farmhouse cheddar. I've done cream cheese. I've done the buttermilk. I've done butter. I've done the things, sour cream. I've done ranch dressing.
If you want sharper cheeses and stuff, you'll need a cheesecake.
Yeah, you'll need to let them sit longer. But like the farmhouse cheddar and mozzarella, it's pretty immediate. You can use it pretty immediately, but it's not as sharp as like what you like. But you could buy your milk, buy 4 gallons, come home, get it all processed into, and all of these things are quick. They're not, within a couple of hours, you could have all your cheeses and your yogurts. So your yogurt, all of that you can make from that raw milk. It's fun. It's super interesting. Like, if you could get into getting these cultures and doing a lot more. So yogurt, you go to the store and you buy a yogurt, plain yogurt with a live culture in it. You take a spoonful of that, you put it in your milk, you keep it warm, you now have a half a gallon of yogurt. So
invest in your own health. Mm-hmm. Do the research and find out what's important to you.
So I'll tell you, somebody said to me once, because one of the big things that my mom would always say is, that's too much work, it takes up too much time. And someone else had said to me, because I was always interested in, from a kid, I was like, I want to grow our stuff. Like, I was really excited when we had trees planted or honeysuckle planted. We lived in Arizona, so growing things like that, even though it wasn't food, I loved it. But I had someone say, you either work for yourself and you grow something for yourself, or you work for somebody else and you make money to buy those same exact things for yourself. So you're either going to add that middleman and let someone else do it for you. But now we're finding that allowing someone else to do it for you, not these small farmers, but because the government's kind of taking it over, that they're doing things to poison us. You have to decide what you want to control in your life. And I want to, my family lives to be in their 90s. Like, I don't want to hurt like this until for 40 more years.
And again, if you haven't seen our other video, you can't even trust labels anymore. So really go and do your research. Start thinking about taking care of your own food and your own gardens.
One of our subscribers, he brought up, physically he can't get out and garden in his yard, but he has a yard. And he was like, I'm going to see if someone wants to come use my yard to garden and then give me some of the harvest, and then someone who doesn't have the space. And I was like, that is so genius. Thank you, Simon.
Yes.
That, if you get to know your neighbors or you get to know people, you will find somebody who is like, I want to garden, but I don't have a yard.
And if you don't have a garden and you don't have a yard and you don't want to really go through all that, or you can't, go to some of the CSAs. There's some farmers that they have baskets that you can buy separate sizes. And I remember when I was living in the city, we did this for a while, and it's seasonal produce that you get in this basket. And depending on the size of your family or how long you want it to last or what have you, is what size you get. But we would meet them every week at a certain place, and you would get these baskets of food for,
Well, and there are some places that will pick the baskets for you and then just hand you the baskets. There are other places where you get the basket and you walk through their garden and you pick what you want.
That would be
and
so
so
fun.
It's a filling, which I think kids would absolutely love that.
That would be great to
I
teach
also
our younger generation.
Exactly. And I also think that it's for someone who hasn't gardened before, that to me is some invaluable stuff that you can just learn from doing that. What does the plant actually look like?
Yeah.
Like, what did it start out as small and grow up as to be the big plant?
Inspirational for sure.
Yeah. How did they set this up? Like, how does it? So that I think is really cool. I know that you pick berry patches are a big thing, so you can do that too.
And then you can preserve them. If you get a lot of that stuff, you can preserve it.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I've wanted to do is do a type of CSA up here. We're going to have a huge garden. I'm talking probably 100 by 200 garden area with a...
Well, of course, we're going to have a commune.
Yeah, with a huge, eventually right here behind this garden, we're putting in a self-heating greenhouse, self-cooling greenhouse. So that we can grow year round. We're here in North Idaho, and so we need to do something like that in order to have a longer growing season. So then we can have fresh stuff year round. If you have the space, look into those self-heating greenhouses. I think it's amazing. And then we're going to preserve as much as I need to for my family, for Kimmie, for anybody else, any of our other friends that come up here and live, for my son and his family, and then anything else could be sold. For our future husbands. Anything else can be sold. And if you look at that, I actually want to grow feed for my livestock, so I know things like beets, the greens of that, there's only so much that one single person could eat of that. The rest of it, growing extra, could go to... But I could eat a can of beets every day. I love beets. Love it.
I have not tried fresh out of the ground beets, so I would like to try that. Yeah.
And roasted. You know that you don't like the pickled.
I love roasted stuff. So
yeah, you'd probably like roasted versus pickled. So, that's things that I'm looking at. So then anything extra will be, offered probably to our local church to see if someone's interested in coming up here and purchasing or working for or whatever. And then obviously we would have enough to donate to anybody in need through our church, which I think is also very important. Like, those things are just like, they just make your heart happy. And that is such a big deal nowadays of, I can't wait for abundance so that we have some to give. That is, like, to me, such a fulfilling dream there.
Yeah.
And then, like, I love the whole preserving process, and you know, you may too. So making the jams, making the jellies.
I've never done it, so I'm excited to learn.
It's really fun. It's just really fun.
I'm lucky to have a mentor.
And so also, this is the other thing that I like about growing your own and preserving your own, is you can say, I really like this made this way. So there is a small batch gardening, small batch canning is a book that I really love. Just look it up. And they have recipes in there for small batches. So you don't get overwhelmed. You get to get started. You get to try some things. They have a recipe in there for sweet pepper relish. Legitimately my very favorite relish, like on hot dogs, on hamburgers. That's mainly the way that I eat it, but on top of whatever meat product you have, having that just there on the side and being able to eat that with that, so good. I would have, 52 jars of that.
Also, something we didn't mention, to make sure you guys are aware too, don't forget that in your backyard, in your side yard, what have you, there are foods that are growing right now that you didn't plant, that nature planted, that you can eat, and it's totally healthy for you.
And they're not weeds.
They are not weeds. They're called weeds by a lot of people, but they're not. Look up different things that you can forage from your own yard or from the forest around you, and collect that stuff.
Yeah.
Preserve that stuff.
And that's something that you're doing over on your channel, Waking Up Country. So she's right now just identifying what's on the property, learning what it all is, sharing that information. That's kind of like, that's the biggest deal of learn it, share it.
I'm amazed at some of the things I'm learning. I did not realize that things that are food, that are forageable food, are also really good medicines to use in case you need it. So,
and I think if you don't have a book or you don't have the app, like I don't have an iPhone, so I don't have the app. Well, your iPhone you can take a picture of it and it'll tell you what it is. I have an Android. It doesn't do that. I'm sure there's an app that I can add. But honestly, if you just watch the animals, what are the animals eating? Because if the animals are eating it, it's edible.
True. If
the animals aren't eating it, don't lick that one. Don't don't ingest that one.
Very true.
There's a reason why the animals are not touching it. There have been where we've just pulled weeds, thrown it into the rabbits, and there have been stuff that they will not touch. And it's like the plague to them. They're like,
okay, don't
throw that one in there. Don't eat that one.
But it's not a bad idea to get a book or two on wild forageable things as well, just to have on hand in case of an emergency, in case food sources become sparse and you need to find something, an alternative. So,
and I'm delving into, and so I'll be doing a series on Farm to Table channel, which is this channel. If you've come over from the 'Cause We Can Farms, that's our building of the homestead channel, of herbs. So I'm planting a huge, extensive herb garden and growing herbs for health, and obviously, to use in regular cooking, but mainly for health. Like there's, oregano does many more things than make great Italian bread. So there's a reason why those countries are so healthy and look so good, because they're using specific herbs in their cooking that helps your health. So I highly suggest that you delve into this. It's so interesting. It's fascinating to me. Like this stuff is absolutely fascinating to me. And learning, gaining that control back is so empowering. Yeah. And, I would love to be at a space right now where the garden was what I did, and, a husband was doing the rest of the building, and that I love, food is my love language, and I love everything about it. I used to obsess about recipes and shopping for the things, but to be able to look at these recipes and say, I think I can grow everything for that recipe, and be able to do that, and then have that in your what you normally eat and stuff, that is absolutely my love language. It brings me a lot of joy. I hope that it can bring you a lot of joy. I hope that these scary topics that we're talking about, like as you see, we just touch on it and then we move into what you can do, because I think we're in this world of, but I can't do anything about it.
And people forget you have choices. You have, just like the choice of watching this, you have choices to make these changes, and you don't have to rely just on the grocery stores that are in your local area.
Yeah, exactly. Put something in the ground. Put the seeds in the ground. See what grows.
Become friends with your local farmers.
Exactly. Because they're cool people.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us this morning, you guys. We really appreciate you. We're off to build an outhouse.
Good times.
Nowhere near the garden. I promise you. So yeah, if you haven't gone over to Waking Up Country and supporting her journey of moving from city life into this life, you should go over there and check that out. And if you haven't checked out our building channel, you should go over and check that out. We really like to have a lot of fun, and I think that's we try to not take life too seriously. This is a topic that I think we have been, but in general, we try to have a good time. We try to take you along with our shenanigans and show you the things that we're learning, because we're learning a whole lot, where we are actively stepping out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
Doing things that we've never done before.
And we may not do it right the first time, but we're learning and we're having fun and we're being positive.
Exactly.
And hopefully we can encourage you guys as well.
So come along on our journeys. We appreciate you guys. Bye.